These haunted museums are hiding artifacts cursed by the devil himself. First up, the Dybbuk Box. Paranormal investigator Zach Bagans opened his very own haunted museum in Las Vegas in 2017, which is home to a number of items that supposedly have. One thing that's housed there is the Dybbuk Box, a wine box that is said to be so haunted by a Dybbuk, which is an evil spirit who is supposedly able to possess people. In fact, the box served as the inspiration for the 2012 movie The Possession. Now, the item came to fame when it was listed on eBay along with a creepy story about its past and was eventually donated to Bagans for his museum. Side note, kind of, well, you know Post Malone? Well, apparently he has actually been cursed by the Dybbuk Box. He was at the museum when Bagans decided to take the plexiglass cover from around the box and actually touch it for the very first time. While he was touching the box itself, Post Malone actually grabbed his shoulder, enough apparently to transfer the curse. Now, in the months that followed Post Malone experienced one, his private plane was forced to make an emergency landing after its tires blew off. Two, three armed robbers targeted a home in San Fernando Valley that they actually believed to be his. And three, his Rolls Royce was involved in a serious car accident. Yep, that sounds like curse to me, but time will tell if more things happen. The cursed chair, also known as Thomas Busby's Stoop chair. This simple wooden chair is said to have been cursed by accused slayer Thomas Busby. Now, Busby was executed by hanging in 1702 in North Yorkshire, but before he passed, he allegedly performed something sinister on the chair in question. Over the years, several passings have been attributed to people sitting in the chair and later passing in suspicious circumstances. It now remains at the Thirst Museum, where it is displayed hanging from the ceiling, making it impossible for anyone, even museum staff, to actually sit on it. Next up, Great Bed of Ware. In around 1590, carpenter Jonas Fosbrook crafted a giant bed so large that it is said to be able to sleep 4 couples. The extra large bed now lives at the Victoria and Albert Museum, but over the years, rumors have swirled that the bed is cursed by Fosbrook's ghost. Now, he allegedly made the bed to be slept on by nobility, but eventually commoners began sleeping on it as it traveled from inn to inn. His spirit is said to attack any low-bred person who dares to rest their head on it. The Great Bed of Ware has been mentioned in several literary works, including Shakespeare's Twelfth Night and Byron's Don Juan. Now, the Great Bed of Ware now sits on display at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. No one can sleep on it. The Unlucky Mummy. This is an ancient Egyptian artifact housed in the British Museum with a reputation for bringing misfortune and tragedy to those who come in contact with it. The mummy board, which is actually a wooden coffin lid adorned with vibrant paintings, was acquired in 1889. It was purchased by Thomas Douglas Murray, a wealthy collector in Cairo. Now, Murray's experience with the mummy were marred by a series of unfortunate events, including a firearm explosion that injured his arm and the unaliving of some of his close friends. Eventually, the museum sold the unlucky mummy to a private collector who tried to have the mummy exorcised. When he could not arrange it, he sold it for a handsome price to an American archaeologist who dismissed the happenings as quirks of circumstance. Now, the new owner arranged for the unlucky mummy to be shipped to New York aboard a sparkling new White Star liner about to make its maiden voyage. On the night of April 14th, amid scenes of unprecedented horror, the Princess of Amun-Ra accompanied 1,500 passengers to their demise at the bottom of the Atlantic. Of course, the name of the ship was, dun dun dun, Titanic. So as you can imagine, many people believe the unlucky mummy is the reason the Titanic sank. Photographers who have captured the mummy have reported strange occurrences such as, equipment malfunctions, unexplained noises. Sir Ernest Wallace Budge, the museum's keeper, attempted to mitigate the curse by moving the mummy to a different location, but the misfortunes just continued. The Catskills Crone, the traveling museum of the paranormal and occult, is home to many objects with dubious pasts, and one of the creepiest is known as the Catskills Crone. As the legend goes, a pair of hikers were trekking in the Catskills Mountains when they came across this statue, which has nails hammered into its eyes and a rope around its neck. They took it from the cave where it was found, bad idea by the way, and once they brought it home, they saw an apparition of a woman accompanied by a smell of pond water. The Annabelle Doll. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren started their museum for items just like this one. Annabelle the doll served as inspiration for the Conjuring movies because of the creepy tale that accompanied her. Now, in 1970, the doll was given as a gift to a student nurse named Donna, who noticed eerie things about it, like the doll leaving notes on paper that said, "Help me," moving positions at the kitchen table, and even attacking one of their friends. They eventually had a medium step in to give an opinion. Now, the expert deemed it to be possessed, a viewpoint that the Warrens agreed upon when the doll eventually found its way to them. The expert had said that the doll was possessed by a little girl that had passed there named Annabelle Higgins, but the Warrens said no, that's not the case. The doll was actually possessed by a demon, summoned from the devil himself, and was there to use the doll as a vessel to manipulate and harm people. The doll has been locked up in their museum, thank goodness, but those who have experienced Annabelle, have been known to have experienced very traumatic events in their life, like car accidents, NDEs, and the doll is labeled as extremely dangerous. Well, good, keep that baby locked up then. The dark mirror, another object housed at the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and Occult, is referred to as the dark mirror. The person who owned this mirror before giving it to the museum bought it at a psychic fair and said they saw terrible visions when looking at it. It is alleged that the mirror actually reflects the biggest fears of the viewer. People have reported seeing themselves age and disappear when they look into it. Some visitors to the museum have even reported seeing their own perished bodies when they gaze into the mirror. Yikes. The Koh-i-Noor Diamond. Now, one of the world's largest cut diamonds is said to hold a centuries-long curse. The Koh-i-Noor Diamond clocks in at over 105 carats and is part of the British crown jewels. The diamond once belonged to Ranjit Singh, who founded the Sikh Empire, but it was eventually taken by the East India Company and claimed by the British. The conflict that surrounded the possession of the jewel is said to put a curse on any man who wears it. Luckily, the last few wearers have been women, and they all seem to have remained uncursed. Robert the doll. This doll, apparently even scarier than Annabelle, is a haunted doll that is currently on display at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. According to legend, Robert was once owned by a young boy named Robert Eugene Otto, who received the doll as a gift from a Bahamian servant in the early 1900s. Now, the servant was allegedly skilled in voodoo, and it is believed that she placed a curse on the doll. Robert was terrified of this doll, claiming that it would come to life and cause, havoc. He named the doll after himself, which is a weird flex if you're super scared of it, but okay. And he treated it as his companion. Again, weird considering how scared you are of it. Anyway, the doll's behavior became increasingly malevolent. Visitors at the museum, when they go to see Robert, have claimed that they actually see his eyes move or his expression change and just have a feeling of an intense chill go over them. Iceman, also known as Otzi, this mummy currently resides at the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology in Bolzano, Italy. Though this mummy was discovered in the 90s, it's said to be the body of a man who lived around 3345 BCE. Now, Iceman is the oldest known mummy from Europe, and since he was found, he has been rumored to hold a terrible curse. This is because several people with links to the mummy have passed in very tragic accidents. Forensic expert Rainer Henn was on his way to give a lecture about Iceman when he was actually unalived in a car crash. Now, Kurt Fritz, a mountaineer who directed scientists to the body, was also unalived in an avalanche, while the rest of his party survived. The Goddess of Demise statue. Now, the Royal Scottish Museum is home to an ancient relic that you do not want in your possession, also known as Woman from Lem, the Goddess of Demise statue seems, to curse every family that basically owns it. The statue was discovered in Cyprus in 1878 and dates from around 3500 BC. The 7 members of the first family who owned it reportedly all passed within just 6 years of acquiring it, and similar fates met the family that followed. Now, historians lost track of the artifact for a long time, but the third owners eventually donated it to the museum before they all perished as well. The Hope Diamond. The Hope Diamond is probably the world's most well-known jewel. It is also totally cursed. Since 1958, it has called the National Museum of Natural History home and hasn't managed to befall anyone with a tragic fate. But before that, many of its owners seemed to perish in odd and very mysterious ways. Several of the people who were in possession of the diamond passed by self-inflicted harm, and several were assassinated. One was even torn to pieces by wild dogs, while another was torn to pieces by a French mob. Let's just say I'm happy that no single person is now considered the owner, because they would definitely be doomed. Which museum are you interested in visiting? Have you been in close contact with any of these cursed items? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Ashley, and until next time, stay scared. These disturbing stories from Ohio will prove that America is haunted, starting with the Thurber House in Columbus, Ohio. James Thurber lived in the house from 1913 to 1917, and during his time there, he suffered from various health issues, including a detached retina, which left him almost blind. In 1915, Thurber's brother, William, passed away in the house due to complications from a burst appendix. Currently, the Thurber House is a museum dedicated to the American author and cartoonist who lived there and even experienced ghostly encounters of his own. But centuries ago, the property was built on traces of the Ohio Lunatic Asylum, specifically near the State of Ohio Asylum for the Insane Cemetery. Now, in 1868, the Ohio Lunatic Asylum burned down and the land was divided into 3 residential parts, one of which later became the Thurber House. People who visit the house say they've seen books flying off the shelves and heard footsteps on the back staircase, as well as doors creaking and doors opening and closing on their own.